So this is Jordan on my shoulder right now, weighs about 1.3 kilograms. Now that's important because most of these rats only get up to 1.5 kilos, and it takes 5 kilograms to trigger an anti-personnel mine. So he can walk all through a minefield and he won't set them off. And he's just looking for those trace amounts of TNT. He's not the metal and the plastic, so like shards of metal shrapnel don't distract them. They'll walk right past it, and they show you in the demonstration. But these are super friendly rats. There's only 59 of them in Cambodia in service right now, but the fleet is growing all the time, right? So Jordan here is a part of the team. They'll get the team up really early in the morning. The rats perform better because they're traditionally nocturnal hunting animals. They'll start them out at 4 o'clock, but then stop working about halfway through the day because it just gets too hot and they need the rest. And then sometimes they'll go back out at night, right? But they can also only work like half the year because half of Cambodia's year is a dry season and then a rainy season. But once the waters come, they can't smell as much anymore. Now, one of the interesting things, not only have they figured out that these are the world's foremost experts for detecting TNT in trace amounts, like 1/1,000,000th of a gram this guy can find within a meter, but they can also detect tuberculosis. So it's expanding the repertoire. These are now some of the most prized animals. I mean, look at how friendly this guy is. Would you in the United States have a rat on your shoulder? No, you would never do it. And this is a part of the whole story of Cambodia. It's not easy to talk about. It's not easy to think about, but you need to see this. This is a really important part of the path, the consequences of warfare and cleaning up that mess. And it's gonna take forever, right? So this is what's happening here in Cambodia. It's really good because it's having a spillover effect into Ukraine. We're in Cambodia here in greater Southeast Asia, right? So if you followed me around, I started in Thailand, went down to Malaysia, then came up through Vietnam, and now I'm here right about in this part of Cambodia. And here in Siem Reap at the gateway to Angkor Wat, we're right about here in the country, right? We're up here. During the Vietnam War, the American bombing happened. I mean, you can see it was pretty widespread. And it's all estimated because a lot of these minefields are found on accident. It takes somebody getting injured or killed, the animals working in the agricultural environment, or a tractor going over the top of something. So the green is cleared minefields, red is estimated remaining minefields, but that's just an estimate, and they're pretty sure this work is gonna go on forever. So they also use out there German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois, and because so many of those were getting injured actually, they had to train them to stop as soon as they smelled something and lay down, and they have GPS trackers on the dogs and the rats, and then they'll mark something. So here actually at APOPO, they are training dog teams to go into Ukraine for clearing of mine areas, try to render them safe, all right? Now behind me is the area where you can hold the rat yourself if you want to, and then behind that fence is like a kennel area where they feed them, rest them. So now, just in these last few years, they've cleared spaces and made them usable that roads hadn't even been used in 20 years. So about 100 meters up the road from where they're training the rats to do minefield clearing, and this area is one of 388 known killing fields around Cambodia. Here on the grounds is a stupa, it's a memorial stupa, with the remains of over 800 people who were found here at this location. So even since completing that and filling up that memorial stupa, more remains have been found. Some of these young men here helped me understand that this building right here started its life as a hospital. Then it was converted when the French reoccupied post-World War II. It was sort of a resort area for them. And then it became barracks for military officers at a certain point. But then, during the time of the Khmer Rouge, the building was used for systemic killing and executions. So many people died. In total, it's believed that over 2 million people were killed during the Khmer Rouge in the late 1970s. So here, right here on the temple grounds, there's a lot of posters, a lot of artwork depicting very graphic and violent scenes. This well, they found somewhere between 50 and 60 human remains in this well. And right here in this framed enclosure, was also, they located through ground penetrating radar, they found tons of remains. Some of the remains are still left in place to honor. Now, today, these grounds, it's a temple, it's somewhere between an orphanage and like monastery kind of activity. I'm not totally sure. It definitely is existing in an in-between space. We've got a really big temple building. We've got all these young men walking around in the monk attire. So they must be, I mean, there's no clear answer posted about exactly what the status is. Hello, it's okay, say hello. We have these young monks hanging out, and they'll greet you with a soda if you're really nice, but I try not to drink so much sugar. Thank you. Yeah. So, you know, there's, as much as there's a story of tragedy here, there's also this story of new beginnings that appears to be unfolding on the grounds. I always like that. To appreciate and respect how deep these waters are, you have to pay attention to the whole story. If you decide to visit APOPO, where they train the rats to sniff out mines, and you go next door to the Genocide Memorial Temple, it's gonna feel heavy, and it should. The seriousness of this, there's implications for everything happening in the world today. You're gonna probably need a nice long walk after visiting those. And where better, because on the other side of the Angkor Highway is the Angkor Botanical Gardens, where we are right now. And it's a pretty big space with like a half a dozen different sections. And I'd recommend coming here. It's free to get in. I'm not a botanist, but it's just a really nice place to take some deep breaths. It's the darker side of the story that needs to be included. So I should point out, between APOPO, the Memorial Temple, and here in the Botanic Gardens, on the streets, on the sidewalks around are, you know, some of the smaller cart vendors selling ice cream and water. But inside of the Botanic Gardens is like a cafe proper. It's mostly just like frappes and coffee drinks and smoothies, but it's an air-conditioned, covered from the sun. So if you're here in the warmer season, that's gonna be a really nice refuge away from the heat to sit down for a minute. I didn't really see much of that anywhere else. Oh, there was a cafe inside of APOPO. All of the proceeds do go to the larger funding effort for mine removal.